I was not prepared for that, but yes. Yeah, welcome everybody. And I'm thankful that you all made it on time, and I'm excited about it. I don't know, it started like I got introduced to Deepak through one of my friends, and I thought it must be just interaction and a new connection. But when we were just speaking about what he does and what is my experience here, so we felt that there's some connection, a strong connection. So what he was doing, he was helping people since, I don't know, 8 years or so for these Healify sessions.
Yeah.
So when I heard about it, and it just started it, we were just going with the flow. And he said he has a strong intuition about we can have some collaboration and we can help people in the world. And he wants to expand. He's now limited to certain countries. I'm like, I just couldn't say no. I said, yes, let's do it. So it just started like that in a very simple way. And then I thought, like, if this has been given to me, there's some people around me only must be needing this. So I just reached out to people and started spreading the word. And I took my self sessions from Deepak, and Geetika, my friend, also took it because I knew she needed it. So it just happened. And now there's so many people collecting together. I feel good energy. And I think I'll tell Deepak to start because he's the expertise in this. And I hope you all benefit from it. And feel free to ask any questions, and thankful you joined.
Great.
Please.
Hey, so thank you so much. It's all exciting to be connected to each of you through Nidhi. And as it always goes, there's no real coincidence that's there. And it's we kind of bit by chance, but I think there's a lot behind it, because the moment we connected, there was a lot of similar vibrations that we felt for each other. And in order to kind of connect to a larger group, which is you and various others, so we're going to go into a small session for around 60 minutes on Healify, and I'm just going to share a few thoughts that I have, and I'm going to try to make it as interactive as possible. I was just telling Nidhi, I just have 3 slides, so I'm actually going to start with the slides, and I'm going to get finish it off in the next couple of minutes, and then I'm going to come back into the screen. So the slide is just to get an agenda. It's always good in NLP, they call it as grounding. It's always good to just get grounded to one particular place or one particular spot, so that we know where we are headed to. So let me just share the screen. Yeah. So bingo. So this is the first slide. It's pretty simple. There's nothing to it. The second slide gives the agenda. And these are the only 4 things we're going to cover in the next 55 minutes or so. The first we're going to start is with Atlas of Emotions. The second is understanding energy flows. The third actually is a bonus. I just put it in, it was not there in the initial thought, but I'm just going to connect it to something called as mudras, which is, which I'll explain to you. And the last one is basics of regression, which is also connected to Atlas of Emotions. That's about it. I'm going to end with this 4 thoughts. So now I know that we're going to connect this. We'll take around 10 to 12 minutes for each of these, and we'll see where it leads us. So the first one is Atlas of Emotions. I'm going to draw you to this site. It's created by Dalai Lama, supported by the Dalai Lama, called Atlas of Emotions. And it's a very simple slide, but sometimes it gets a little difficult to understand the depth behind this simple site. So it has 5 emotions: anger, fear, disgust, sadness, enjoyment. I mean, they explore 5 emotions. And there is something called as a trigger. You see this? This first thing is a trigger, which is a friend gets angry with you. And then there is a reaction, or there's a feeling around it. And then there is a response mechanism, which is you argue. It goes a little beyond, so you kind of go a little more into detail, because there is a precondition and there is some sort of a past conditioning that we have. So a friend does get angry with you, but it's you at the same time you're also low on sleep, and you're reminded of some past incident of some bully, and which is why you feel anger and you argue. So there's a precondition, and there is some awareness that is there. Now hold on. While there is a trigger and there is a precondition and there is something that we are aware of from a past incident, There are two things that happen when you feel anger. There is something on the bodily condition, which is, let's say, your body becomes tense. There's also something on the mind, which is, let's say, if you feel attacked, there's a mental condition that happens. And hence, there is a response mechanism in which you argue. We'll spend some time on this, don't worry. I know I'm rushing it, but I'm going to, when I show you the whole picture, you'll get more and more aware of it. So here is a trigger, the precondition, the past condition, and there is a feeling of anger. There's a bodily movement, and there is something on the mind. There are three options you have, in a response. You can either argue, you can avoid, or you can take time off. So you notice now you have three options. Now, the decision or the response mechanism, you can respond in any of these three manners. And it all depends on us, on how we respond. Now, the normal response is we will start arguing. A passive or a defensive mechanism is we start running away, avoiding them. A more constructive response is we take time off, which is we kind of get into a silence zone and try to see how we can respond in a much more better manner. And hence, if you see the big picture, you will notice that, that there is an event. An event is nothing but a trigger. And there's a precondition. There is some precondition that is there, which is we are low on sleep. There is a perceptual database. And this is actually a kind of grounding for research, for regression. Now, when we go into regression, which I'm going to explain towards the end of the session, we'll be touching upon this perceptual database. So perceptual database is, how we see the world, which is a result of a lot of past actions that have, happened on us, and repeated emotional experiences that keep happening on us. So a perceptual database has been formed in our system. We'll take Q&A, on this particular thing. So, I can see some of you trying to see what it is all about, but it took me a lot of time to crack this code. And hence, there is an emotional state, which also has some physical and some mental changes. So now you notice there's an event, a precondition, a perceptual database, which is there in a system, an emotional state, physical and mental changes, and there is a destructive response. And then there is a constructive response and an ambiguous response. If this chart is understood well, for one, you can actually replicate it for all the emotions. Okay. So let's say, for example, you take fear. I'm just going to go into fear. And if you notice in fear, the trigger is the same. Okay, the trigger is exactly the same. There's no change to the trigger. But there's a change in the precondition. So the precondition is you're not low on sleep, but you're actually reading some scary news. Okay. And the perceptual database is also different, which means the experiences that we've gone through in our past, in an inner child, or in whatever previous existence that we have, it reminds us of abandonment. Now, because of this combination of the trigger followed by the perceptual database and the precondition, our emotional state is different. You actually feel fear. And hence, the physical changes is there's a heartbeat increasing. So always when there's fear, the heartbeat starts increasing. And the mind is, on an abandonment mode. So you're expecting them to leave in some sense. So how do you respond? So a destructive response is, let's say you imagine them leaving. And then you have the constructive and the ambiguous response, which is either recall by your friends, which is a constructive response. You're looking at it more positively and trying to come out of it. Or ambiguous could be something else, which is helpful or unhelpful, etc. And exactly the same is with disgust. And I'll finish it and I'll pause for Q&A, because I hope you have some Q&A. Here, the trigger is the same. So the reason I'm going through the sequence is, if you notice, the trigger is always the same. I mean, in this particular example, but depending on your precondition, which is in this case, you're grieving, the context, and your perceptual database, which is your past, whatever you have gone through in the right from childhood till today, your universal scripts, as it is called, which in this case reminds you of sensitivity, you actually feel something different. You don't feel anger, you don't feel fear, you actually feel disgust. It's totally different, although the trigger is the same. And there is a way you recoil, and the way you feel sickened. And there's a constructive response, which is, you kind of questioning why why they're particularly angry, because they've actually got angry with you, or a destructive response, or an ambiguous response. And the fourth one is sadness. And I think you're kind of getting the trend where the trigger is exactly the same, but the precondition is that you're in a different frame of mind. The context at that point is a little different, what you've been going through in the last day or two. And what you've gone through in your universal script, it reminds you of rejection. And because of which, you don't feel angry, you don't feel fearful, you don't feel disgust, you actually feel sad. So person's getting angry with you, you feel sad. And in sadness, the body weak, the knees get weak in some sense. You feel empty, and hence you have multiple kind of reactions or responses around you. I love actually this particular flow which is there, because when it comes to emotional intelligence, or it comes to the trying to understand emotions, this gives a lot of depth into understanding how a person reacts, responds, basis what they've been going through, or basis what they have had some experiences way back in the past. And depending on that, your emotions can change. This is a good way also to understand people. When you can understand it at your workplace or at your home, understanding how people behave and react. When they react in various manners, you will know that there is a particular database that's kind of going on. There's a little more greater depth in the emotional intelligence of a person, in how they are dealing with themselves, and hence you can deal with themselves in a better manner, especially when they respond either constructively or destructively, etc. You know what really they're going through. So I'm just going to give a pause here and just see if any of you have any thoughts, any questions to share around this, any doubts, any clarifications.
I don't have a question, Deepak, but I just want to add, because I've already taken a session with you and now I'm getting a little knowledge about it. So I think my understanding is getting better. And with this chart, what you have explained, I know it's quite heavy for a lot of us, but in a nutshell, in a simple way, what I think that if we really understand it, it'll be very good for understanding people at work and professional life or personal life, to understand people. And we all are looking for that actually in a way in our life, isn't it? That's what I want to add it.
Correct. This, in fact, is the foundation of emotional intelligence, trying to understand our own emotions and emotions of people around us. You can get a much more greater understanding, a greater compassion, greater kindness, when you see people around, how they're reacting, responding. You can immediately try to, if you just study these, a few of them, you'll get an inkling of, what they have been going through. What people have been going through, some preconditioning, something in their being which they are going through. So this is a very powerful reminder, to all of us, as to how we can, be a little more emotionally aware of ourselves and of family, friends, at workplace, people around us. what they've been going through, and then you can respond in the right, manner. Instead of reacting, you can actually respond. You move from reaction to respond in a more constructive manner.
Deepak,
Yes.
correct me if my understanding is incorrect. So this is actually, to me, it is going both ways. One is how I am acting or reacting or attending to certain situations or events that happen in my life, right? That is one thing that is showing what background impressions or what background events have happened, which is kind of coloring my perception of the event, right? So that is one part of it, me. And the second part is understanding this in a better way. When an event happens from an outside entity, like there is somebody else who's acting either with anger or either with something else, right? Where is that coming from? I can understand that better. And definitely it'll help me improving myself, right? It's all about getting better. That is my understanding.
Absolutely. Perfect. When both ways. One is understanding ourselves, and when an event does happen to us, for example, somebody does get angry with you, you can realize that even they have some background. So they have been possibly going through something different in their own way, which is why they are responding in that particular manner. So absolutely right. You're perfectly right. Good. So if you're ready, we can move on. Yeah, I'd like to give some silent pauses so that gives time for people to just understand. But this is the basics. It's a little heavy for a Saturday morning, but I just thought I'll give it to you and pause for a few seconds so that you absorb it. This is in fact the basics of regression too, because when you actually try to go in deep and try to cleanse out any of the inner conditions that are there within your preconditions, this chart kind of comes in handy. So with that, we move on to the next phase, which is understanding the energy flows. Now, this is something very basic, whether the East or the West, in the Chinese or the Indian or the Western tradition, they have these names in different terminologies, but all the energy is the same because a human being is the same. Yeah. So there are 5 energy flows that are there in a human being. Okay. The first energy flow, and I'll tell the Sanskrit word first, and I also tell the English word later. The first energy flow that's there in a human is something called as prana, which is the breathing in. As you breathe in, the inward energy. It's called in Tai Chi or the Chinese or Western, they'll call it the inward energy. But it's actually called as prana, which is as you breathe in the prana, the movement of energy within. The second energy is called as apana, which is elimination. Okay. Now prana is responsible for the breathing in of not just of air, but also breathing in of ideas, getting new ideas in. And apana is responsible for elimination, not just in the physical sense, also in the mental sense. So apana is everything below the stomach. All elimination below the stomach is the second energy, which is apana. The third one is the balancing between the two, which is right in the stomach area, which is also called as sama. Sama in Sanskrit means equality, equanimous. And in English, it'll be called as a balancing energy. The balancing energy is right at the center, which is at the stomach area. So you have the prana, which is inward. You have apana, which is the downward elimination, and then we have the central energy, which is also called as sama. And this is responsible for the digestion, not just also in the physical sense, but it's also responsible for digestion in the mental sense. Digestion of ideas, understanding concepts. This energy is responsible for it. All these energies, the 5 energies, 3 I've covered right now, There's a physical connotation to it. So you have the breathing in, which is prana, and there's a physical connotation to it. There's also a mental connotation to it, breathing in of ideas, getting new ideas, or elimination of ideas or thoughts, any thing that you have, that is apana. Sama is digestion, where you're assimilating, stuff in your system. The fourth one is the rising energy, which is also called as udana, UDANA, the rising energy or upward force, called as udana. And this is responsible for expression, communication, speech, expression. It's a higher energy, and which is why the word is udana, which also means to fly in Sanskrit, udana, it goes higher. So that's the fourth energy. The fifth energy, and all these five energies are the basics. If you understand these five, you'll understand a lot of systems, within healing terminologies. The fifth energy is something called as Vyana. Vyana is the energy in the veins, in between the nervous system. There's an energy that flows through us. It's called as Vyana. And it's also called as, the energy within the body. So, in all traditions, Tai Chi or, the Indian traditions or the Western traditions, they will name this in different ways, but it's all one and the same, because the human being is one. We're not aliens, so the human being is one, whether one is a African or a European or an Indian or a Chinese. So the energy remains the same, whichever way you name it, it doesn't matter. But if you understand these five energy flows, so Vyana is responsible for the various thoughts that occur in our being. From my mind perspective, it's responsible for the conflict of thoughts, the various thinking patterns that are there. Any disturbance in these energy flows will also have a corresponding disturbance in our mind. I'll repeat this again. Any disturbance in these energy flows will also have a corresponding disturbance in the way we think and in our mental conditions, because all of them are linked. So that's very important to understand. All of them are linked, which is why breathing techniques are very effective and are followed quite well. Breathing techniques, deep breathing techniques. When you breathe deeply, it is effective because of this same reason. You have in the yogic tradition, you have the pranayama, which is breathing techniques, or in the Far Eastern, which is Tai Chi, you have in the flowing motion, in the flowing energy. I'll give a short, kind of demo of all of these, and various other techniques, you have of deep breathing. So there is something called as belly breathing, very famous, which is there. So the way it needs to be done is as follows. Why belly breathing? Okay, so first, why belly breathing is because a lot of times breathing can be shallow. So the breathing is only from the throat. You can actually check right now. If the breathing is only from the throat, it means there is a sense of anger or irritation within us, the sense of restlessness. If the breathing is up to the heart, you're breathing in, it's just coming up to here and going out. There's a sense of fear, anxiety. If the breathing is up to the belly, when you say belly, the belly goes up and down. Okay. So when you breathe in, it's also loosely called as the dog's breathing. It's not a very, it's not the right word, but dogs breathe just like this. So the stomach goes up and stomach comes back down. And so left hand is on the chest, right hand is on the stomach, and as you breathe in deeply, the right hand should go ahead and come back down. So belly breathing, if done well, has a very calming effect on our entire system. It has a very calming effect on our entire system, because you're crossing the area of irritation, of fear, and you're going to a more deeper self. So in fact, we just deep breathe. If a person is tense, if your kids are tense, or if you know somebody who's going through any anxiety, fear, or any particular issue that they're going through, if they just deep breathe, 10 times, they just deep breathe, and deep breathing in this particular manner. There are various ways to do it. One popular way is, you just hold this and ensure that the right hand moves up and down. Another popular way, which I love, which is also from Tai Chi, is where you actually hold your hand, parallel to the at the stomach level, and then you slowly rise it up. And as you rise up, you're actually breathing in. At this level, you turn it upside down and you push it down. And as you push it down, you're breathing out. This is a partial, point of a flowing motion. It's a popular Tai Chi technique, and this also leads to deep breathing, because it's like a seesaw motion. You actually go very slowly. As you rise up, you're breathing deeply inside. As you put it down, you're breathing out. So breathe in and breathe out. So this leads to calming yourself, calming the mind. And this particular movement that is there has a very good effect on the whole system. It's like it's a little intoxicating. You get nice, deeply intoxicated, to this entire movement that happens, from top to down, flowing motion. Very powerful. A few more techniques are there in terms of how you can breathe deeply, and these are some things which are critical. But the idea is to breathe deeply. So that is the second part. I just wanted to capture. I'm going to take some Q&A on the second part. So we finished the Atlas of Emotions, which is all those emotions around us. The second part is the 5 energy flows, and this the breathing patterns that are there in us. Any thoughts, any questions around this? Anybody has? Are we going on the right track? Also, I wanted to check. Is this what you're expecting? We are 20 minutes down, so I can still make changes, if you want to.
I have a question. Like, I know we are educating everybody on Healify, so I just want to understand the connection between the practical sessions and with breathing. So I'm just want to understand that. Like,
yes, I'll be coming to that. Yes. What happened in individual sessions, I'll be coming to that. Yes, once I complete these 3, I will come to that. So I just wanted to do some foundational thoughts on these areas. So just want to check with the rest. Priya, Anil, all okay? I mean, are we on track?
Yeah, all good so far. All good.
Okay. Good.
All good here as well.
Okay. Any questions, Ms. Thomas? Anybody has?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
It's pretty clear so far.
All good, Gitika. Great. Good. So we'll go to the third category. And the third is, what I mentioned is the mudras. I just thought it's a good flow. And I've been hearing this for a long time, but it took me some time to understand the significance behind this and how it works and how powerful it can be. So mudras are basically, hand gestures which happen. I'm going to explain it to you. It's there in most of the traditions, but how it is done can make or break the entire outcome of how it works. So what exactly is a mudra? To put in very simple words, there's a lot of energy. You remember Vyana. Now I'm going to connect it to what all we did in the last 30-40 minutes. There were 5 energies we had: Prana, Apana, Sama, Udana, and the 5th was Vyana, energy in the veins. Now the energy in the veins is something which is used in various healing systems, including Reiki, including Tai Chi. Tai Chi, you have something called a Tai Chi ball. They will rub the hands and make it something like a ball. That is energy between the fingers. You can feel it. So it's something called a Tai Chi ball, and it's all because of the that 5th energy, which is Vyana, which is coming in from the fingertips. In acupuncture also, they will have a lot of significance on the points in the palm and on the foot, etc. A lot of significance in various traditional forms of healing, which is there, and it has a great scientific backing, primarily because of the energy flow that's happening from all these fingers. Now, when 2 fingers touch each other, and I'm actually going to explain to you how it should be touched. It's because that's why many times it fails or succeeds, etc. When they touch each other, the energy actually forms a circuit loop between them. Okay, so let's say if the thumb and the forefinger, they touch each other, there's a circuit loop that's formed, which has an impact on the physical as well as on the mental state of the particular person. The reason being, each of the 5 fingers, they represent the 5 elements. So for example, the thumb represents fire, and the forefinger represents air, 2 of the 5 elements. And we also have Akasha, which is space, earth, and water, the other 3 fingers. So when you touch these 2, which is this particular thing, you must have seen it in various photos, or you must have seen it when people when they meditate, they normally will have this particular posture of, putting, and there's a reason for it. Because when fire and air, these are 2 fingers, when they kind of connect to each other, there is you can even try it today, as we speak. When you just touch both of these together, okay, there is a calming effect on the mind. The mind instantly becomes very calm. It's a very easy trick, simple trick, no great magic around, except that we need to know how to touch. So the touch should not be forceful. It has to be very, very, very light. It's almost like not touching. There has to be almost like a thin gap, or just a feather touch, or sometimes even that should not be there. It should be very, very, there has to be possibly a half mm, or just a small feathery kind of touch in between the 2 fingers. If you can, I don't know how sorry. Yeah. Very small. It has to just kind of, be there. And if you try it right now, I'm going to encourage all of you to try it right now. If you do that, you will actually feel there is something passing from the thumb to the forefinger. Maybe we can just try it now. I'm just going to pause for a few seconds. Just see if you can feel it. You might feel something passing in from the thumb to the forefinger. And if not, it doesn't matter. You can try it again, because it might take 1 or 2 attempts to get this, get this right. But the catch is that it has to be very light, and it has to be just like a feather. And the way this works, the way this helps is that when you do this, when you touch with the thumb the various fingers, the respective elements are balanced in the body. The respective elements of the 5 elements in the body are, in a sense, balanced. And this leads to a lot of, a balancing of our entire system, physical, as well as it leads to a balancing of our, pranamaya, and, of the breathing pattern, as well as of the it again touches onto the mind region. So these are, and there are various, you can check, online. There are various mudras and various postures which you can touch, multiple fingers, 3 fingers, 2 fingers, etc., which can help in a lot of ailments, heal you in many more ways than one. One is just the physical; it can also touch upon the emotional state of the being. But the reason I brought this in is because one needs to know how to touch. Because that's somehow it's not very clearly articulated in any of the literatures or the videos I see. That it has to be a very, very light touch, and then it works. And then it works. Otherwise, it does not work. So not only people try it, but it doesn't work. But that's where it is. So I'm just curious to know, anybody tried it right now? Could feel anything around it?
Can I share my own personal experience? I mean,
Sure.
I tried it and I'm not feeling anything, but some of people in this, friends in this session knows that I've gone through a medical condition 2 years back, and I was lucky enough to get a acupressure doctor in my life. And over here, 15 doctors sat and studied my condition. It was a little complicated, and they were pressing me to go for a surgery. And I refused it, and my acupressure doctor actually treated me. And what you're saying, actually, that education, what you just gave us, made so much sense to me, because I have gone through it, and through acupressure, or I treated my condition, actually. But now what you're explaining in detail is making so much sense to me, and I'm thankful for that education, because I was just doing it practically because I was getting healed. But now with your explaining about how I had no clue about this, like the energy flows and all, but you explain it makes so much sense. But I'm grateful for that acupressure doctor which came in my life, and I said no to surgery, and I'm just in front of you all, perfectly fine.
Awesome. So I'm seeing a couple of businesses in the group where they tried it and didn't feel anything. I realized that we can do one exercise before this, which hopefully you should feel. And that's if you actually rub your hands hard, okay? Rub your hands hard. And then you slowly move them aside. You just slowly move them aside. You should ideally feel a kind of energy ball between the fingers. You should feel something moving between the fingers. And if you don't, again rub it. Okay, rub it.
Yes, I'm feeling it.
And you'll feel a sort of energy ball between the fingers. Kind of a force. Like when you rotate it here and there, you'll feel that force, the ball moving, in this direction, that direction. And slowly feel it. It's like a toughy ball, It's like a round pillow in between our hands. And it's like spongy, As you go out, it will kind of reduce. As you jump in, you'll feel the force increasing. You can kind of play with it, This is not mudra. I'm just giving you one level before this, So this is basically just to feel the energy between the fingers. And I'm just going to check with any of you. Were you able to feel it? Because this is the Tai Chi ball. So this is how Tai Chi starts the process of trying to feel the energy between us. And instantly, this is how, if you notice all the Tai Chi movements that happen as they move, etc., you'll always notice that at one point, the two hands move past each other. They will pass each other and move like this. And the reason is because they keep recharging this particular ball as they go ahead. It will go like this, and then slowly it will come. You'll always notice this particular hands. Feels heavy in the hands. Yes, Anisha, that's a good start. That's a good start. So we're kind of getting there. Since the time is so short, I was trying to do mudras directly, but I think let's go slow. a little slow, and yeah,
Because-
you're sitting there. It feels a little heavy, yes.
Yeah,
And the
this
other
was
thing that
very
you can try
interesting.
is, the other thing that we can try with this Tai Chi ball is, when you try to stretch this ball, you feel the pressure. You really have to exert yourself to
Yes.
open it up. And then as you leave it, it just comes back like an elastic. And
Correct.
if you feel that there's a air movement between the fingers too.
Correct. So this is the basics of how the Vyana works, the energy in the veins. Okay. Ideally, this rubbing hands is more of an artificial thing. At one point, you should be able to feel it even without rubbing the hands. So we are kind of, it's like kick-starting the motorcycle, or you're trying to put the ignition in the car and trying to get it started, on a snowy day. At one point, it should just flow. The energy should just flow even without the rubbing. Okay, so that's the idea around it. Once this is done, next step is mudras. So I think once this is done, you'll get this, the other thing also right. Okay. So good. With that, we will go on to the final one, which is the basics of regression. And this is what, I think Nidhi was coming to the couple of experience that she's gone through. And how is, what is regression and how does it go through it? So if you notice, the first site I opened, Atlas Emotions, gave the scientific explanation behind the power of preconditioning, or something which is there hidden within us, which can emerge out whenever there's a trigger that happens around, or an event that happens around us. So how does one go through it, and how does one kind of heal oneself of those perceptual database? So regression is one of those techniques in which we take you through an experience of trying to get yourself relaxed, and then using a sankalpa, we try to slip you into either the inner child within us, or into visualization, where you go into a past event, possibly to a past life, or possibly into something which is not explainable in this current situation. So you slip into a previous existence where you go through some series of experiences and events which correspond to what the outcome is that you're looking for. And then when you heal that particular event which is there deep within us, you also heal the current understanding or the current life issues that are going on. So let's give a simple example. For example, in the year 2013 or 14, I'm going to a very simple example. I had a small car accident where, it was very small. I mean, car in the sense, there was a person who backed the car, my car, and it hit the wall. So, of course, the rear bumper and all was kind of, broken. And I sold the car a couple of years later. So it's all over. Ideally, it's over, right? I mean, it's repaired, it's sold, it's kind of over. But I realized in 2017-18, whenever I remembered this particular incident, okay, there still was a kind of discomfort in my heart. Okay, so there still was some sort of memory lodged in me, some sort of an emotion associated of a combination of fear and a shock, the way it happened, which was there in a very small sense. And then I just relived it and released, all the impressions associated with this, which then helped me to overcome that particular, memory and that particular incident. Now, the reason I give this particular small, incident is because this is something very simple. Okay? But there are more complicated things that have happened in our lives, as in our current life as well as previous existences. There are a lot of complicated things that could have happened, which we are still holding on to. And regression is a very powerful therapy which can help you to go back try to visualize or relive that and try to get relieved out of it through a very particular healing methodology, which heals you and relieves you of whatever memories that you're associated with the particular incident. It's to be done in a very safe manner, because the moment you relive it, it has to be relieved also. So reliving and relieving, they go hand in glove. And if that kind of happens, there's a lot of lightness that you would feel, and a lot of changes that will come in your being, primarily because you have let go of a lot of past holding on to that you have had. So this is basically how regression works. And just taking a pause. Any questions, thoughts around this? Because I know that we are coming to that this is something that we are looking at.
I have a question. I know that you did say about that you relive the memory and then you let go of it. But how I know I've done a session with you, but if I'm not doing a session with you and I'm going to do this myself, how is it possible to do that? Like, how do you relive the memory, but how do you let it go? That is something that I really would like you to stress upon a little bit more.
Perfect. That's most important. So letting go is either with a combination of forgiving or release, or a combination of loving the person, or it's kind of overcoming the event, or using a guide within the session. When I say guide, I mean using the guide that the soul guide that you have to help you relieve that particular memory. So depending on the situation, we can choose any of the techniques which can help you to release and let go of whatever you're holding on to.
Thank you.
There's no one single answer. It all keeps changing, depending on the situation.
I think it depends on how many times have you relived it. Like as soon as the incident happens and if you let it go right away, then it is much more easier. But if you relived it and kept on thinking multiple times, it becomes heavier and heavier. And then you need your soul guide to basically help you out,
Totally agree.
help you forgive it.
And sometimes there could be strong memories from the past, which you may not have control on, which can come up.
So in a nutshell, forgive and forget.
Forgive and forget, yes.
Wow.
It's always easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
I was
Because
just going to say that things that have happened in the past, like you just said so rightly, that things that happen at the moment is the easiest to forgive, forget, and move on. But things that have happened in the past and you harbor it inside is the hardest to let go.
Totally agree, Geetika. Totally agree.
But then the past life regressions that are much more difficult to identify in the first place, and then getting rid of them is something really much more difficult too. And that's where you need experts like Deepak who can help you out with those, right?
Yeah.
Totally agree.
I'll just show a couple of videos of people who have gone through the sessions. Okay, I'm just choosing 3 of them. So the first one is a lady in California. Let me see where it is. Yeah, just some short videos, 2 or 3 minutes, 1 minute, I think.
Hey friends, this is Lois Kofi here, just to give you an amazing testimonial for my friend, my business partner, and the founder of Healify, Deepak Pharma. The things that he does are so powerful. They're life-changing and life-giving and transformational in such a way that my husband and I, because of the work that I chose to do with Deepak last summer, it helped catapult our decision in creating a dream into reality. We moved to Southern California late last summer, largely in part because of the healing work. You know, if you have inner peace, you can create anything you want in life. And Deepak did that for me. He created some healing, some meditation. His techniques and tools are so unique to him. You've got to check it out. And whatever your dreams are, whatever your trauma might have been in the past, there's no need to hold on to that stuff. Let it go and chase forward confidently in the direction of your dreams. And Deepak is your guide to do that.
So that was.
My name is Christine, and I live in.
Sorry. Any thoughts, any questions? I just thought I'll go around the table first. I know, so Nidhi also has taken a couple of sessions, and so has Ekika, as she mentioned. And but before, I just thought I'll go around the table. Any questions anybody has on any of the things? So what we've covered till now is Atlas of Emotions. Then we've covered the energy flows in quite detail. Energy flows, Tai Chi, breathing techniques, energy, mudras, in quite detail. And then we covered the basics of regression, how it works, and what really happens in a session. So in any session that people take with me, depending on the issue that the person has, we either take them into, we could either take them into inner child or a past life in a regression format. Apart from that, there are a lot of tips that one can get in terms of the energy flows itself, things which we can rectify from a current state of mind. So that's anyway given. So it's a combination of all of this which happens in an individual session. So just wanted to put that out. But before I continue, just any questions, doubts, thoughts? People who have been silent, I'm actually a little worried about. Okay, let me see. There's one question that's come in. How do we manage the trauma that we have from this life and potentially also dealing or trying to forgive and forget the trauma from the past life? Interesting question, Pantani. A lot of times, the trauma in this life is also connected to the trauma in the past life. There's a lot of links I've seen in the last 5-6 years. I've done this to hundreds of people. There are a lot of links that keep happening between the present and the past. It seems to be going into a pattern. So there is something called as a pattern, which keeps repeating itself. And it's also a lot to do with, the way our belief system and our patterns sometimes can have repetitive, incidents that keep happening through the time. So if you tackle any one, you break the chain once, you will actually know how to break the chain, again and again in the future. So that's the answer to that.
I just wanted to add to it, like what happens is the past event many a times form our kind of a behavioral pattern, right? We start behaving in certain way or start reacting or start acting on some of those events or some of those instances in a certain way, right? So in our mind, we don't see that as right or wrong or whichever way, right? We just do it as a natural action, part of it. But those are basically because of the past events or things that have happened, have kind of tracked it to a certain way of acting and reacting. But whether it is right or wrong, right? How do we identify that, and so that we come to know, saying that, okay, this is incorrect and we need to get rid of this, because in our mind, we are doing it right.
Good question. So the way to do that, Anil, is that when you go deep into ourselves, in a regression, when you go deep into ourselves, use a sankalpa and try to explore that particular action or that incident or the outcome. Try to just, in an open mind, explore the various ways to do it. Explore and see, was there a deeper impact or a deeper action which was underlying behind that action, whatever the action could be. And it's possible. So when you go into a very deep state of relaxation, a delta state, and then you just explore that in a very open manner, something will open up. Some avenue will open up, and that will lead to some sort of understanding of what that incident or that particular action could be. Something underlying that incident will emerge. I'm just seeing one question in the chat. I lost a young friend who committed suicide. I was in past life connection with her. Okay. So condolences. I just saw that message. That must have been quite traumatic. Not sure. Yeah, you could have had something. Never know. But you can always pray for her future. That's about it. So Tatiana, any questions? Was it okay? Did you?
Yes, thank you. So, as far as I understand, today right now was an introduction to, I guess, the techniques and the approach for your program, right? And then you basically have showed us what you are using in your program, Healify. Am I correct? Okay, thank you.
I'm going to take the seat. So Nidhi, shall I play the other video which we have? So I'll just play the second video. Let me just open it.
Hello, everyone.
Just a minute. Yeah, that's
My name is Nidhi, and I'm here to share my experience with Deepak Verma about Healify. So Deepak was introduced to me by a very close friend who had also experienced Healify with Deepak. So when I asked my friend about what exactly is Healify, so what she said is more of an experience. So I believed her, and when I asked Deepak, so we went for sessions, and so far I've taken 2 sessions. So the first session, when we started, I went with a very open mind. I didn't Google anything or didn't study about what is past life regression or anything about that. So we went with the flow, and I went without any expectations. So that was the best thing I'd like to share. And then what happened in that session was, it was so powerful that he took me very deep into my subconscious, and the kind of experience I had, like you all must have heard, it's one is past life regression and there is a progression also. So I actually went into progression, which is future. And I went so deep in my subconscious that I could see my future technically. And I also asked Deepak that what is the meaning of certain things. So what he said, the understanding will come automatically and you'll get a lot of answers to what you saw today. I'm like, oh my God. And seriously, it was just amazing experience, and things are unfolding on a daily basis to me now. So that much I can say about the first session. And the second session we actually planned, and we took fear as a component that day, and it was working on my childhood fears. And what I saw the change after the session, it was a very powerful session again. But the changes what I see now on a daily basis after the session was, like in the workplace, I mean, I always try to say the right thing and truth, but there was a lack of confidence in that. Can you imagine saying the truth and with no confidence? It was kind of controversy. So after the sessions, what I saw that I'm the same person, but the kind of confidence level I have gained, and I'm still gaining that. So that second session has done that wonders to me. And about Deepak, what I can say so far, what I know about him is a very, very generous human being and very knowledgeable and a good listener and a healer, I can say that. And yes, it's all about experience. Healify is all about experience. So thank you, Deepak.
And Geetika, shall I share the final one?
Yeah, definitely.
Sure. I'll just open that.
Hi, my name is Geetika.
So I thought I'd share a few which are, relevant. While I have a lot of others from India.
And I was very privileged to speak to Mr. Deepak a couple of weeks back. And my personal experience is that, it was a life-changing experience for me, rather. It made my soul very light. And I am actually feeling much better. And have really gone past some of my demons of my past. I didn't ever realize that you could be speaking to someone and tears just flow down with no hesitation at all. And that was my experience with him, that I think all my worries just went away in my tears. And you know what? We all need somebody like Mr. Deepak to help us evolve in our lives and really fight the demons of our past. So I would really highly recommend somebody who really wants to change, make a change in their life and progress. So my testimony is, he's a great soul. And I definitely would recommend this kind of a session for any person, actually, just not somebody with past issues, but anybody who really wants some kind of a significant change in their life. So Deepak ji, thank you so much for everything that you've done. And just wanted to encourage others to take help from you and evolve. Thank you.
I didn't realize it was so salesy. It sounded quite salesy, but hey, I'm just there to help people out. So that's about it. So any thoughts, any questions? We just have a couple. We started, 8 to 9 minutes late. That's why I'm taking a few seconds more, or a few minutes more. Any other final questions that any of you have before we close?
So what will be the next steps? Like, will there be more sessions, or is it like on a one-to-one basis? We can get in touch with you.
Yes. So in fact, I just have the last. Thank you, Ms. Thomas. So the last slide, and I do one-on-one sessions, and I recommend, between 3 to 6 sessions at least to begin with. So we could look at an individual session, 60 minutes, and this is at 160 Canadian, or a pack of 3 sessions. I've kept it extremely low, just to ensure that we get as many bookings as possible. So you can book before 10th December to avail these prices. Prices will go up, beyond this, and you can go through a few sessions, see how it looks and feels, and if there's some change in yourself, which I can guarantee you, you can we can have a greater engagement. So you can connect to Miss Nidhi. Numbers there, I think most of you know her, as well as email ID. So she can pass on the link to you and for the booking. So once it is booked, then we can decide on an agreed date and time, and we can have the session. So that's the next step, Anil, and for all of you.
Deepak, will you be in Kana between 20th of January and 4th of February, like during the Bandara time?
Yes, I will be.
Okay.
So good. Thank you so much for your time. So I'm going to hand it over to Nidhi for the final conclusion. Any thoughts that you may have before we conclude?
I just want to thank you for your. Sorry.
Nidhi, sorry, if I may just intervene, Sangeeta here. I've been having challenges with my audio and video. I just wanted to thank you and Deepak for this session. It's very informative. For me, it's just literally scratching the surface and a sense of creating a self-awareness before I could go any deeper. So thank you for that. And I did have a question, if I may take a moment. How does one know that one is being troubled by anything in our past life? And also sometimes to get over, turmoil or challenges, we are always waiting for another person to be part of our healing process. And if the person we have any angst against is not part of that healing process, how are we able to make that change for ourselves?
So coming to the first question, I would say that if you feel that there's a pattern that you're going through, if you look at various events in the last 10 years of your life or 15 years, if you feel there's any repetitive pattern that you're going through, then for sure it has something to do, either in the inner child or the past life. It's a guarantee. Okay, if there's a pattern, so every 2 years, let's say, if there could be a relationship issue, or every 2 years there could be a work issue, a job issue, etc. If there's a repetitive pattern, then that sequence is, kind of guarantee that there is something that is there in the past, which is holding you back. Coming to your second question, which, if I heard right, is that if there's a person who has an angst against you. Is that correct, Sangeeta?
That's right. And you're only able to overcome that when you're hoping they may react in a particular way towards you, and you're not able to move forward.
For that, actually, I would actually suggest simply try to use Atlas of Emotions chart and just see the way you're responding, the way they're responding. What's the precondition? What are they going through? Just try to understand from an emotional intelligence perspective. Try to map out the chart and just see where it stands. And if still there's an issue, then you can actually get into trying to understand the perceptual database. Again, it goes back to regression. So you start scratching the surface, and then you see where it leads you to.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Sangeeta. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Just
I have a question. What is your availability in terms of sessions? Are you available in the evenings, on the weekends, or what's are you in the same time zone as Toronto?
No, I'm not in the same time zone as Toronto. So I'll be normally available in the mornings of Toronto.
What about weekends?
Weekends I'm available. No issue. Mornings.
Mornings or the weekends. Okay. Thank you.
Morning meetings will lead to my evenings, which is very easy for me. So Toronto comes in, the timing comes in good for me.
Thank you.
I think weekend morning suits all of us here in Toronto for sure. Anybody has any questions or want to say anything for the session? I know a lot of you have thanked us on the chat. Thank you for actually attending and taking a step. I always say that taking an action, a small step also is a big thing. And thank you for being there. And I want to thank Deepak for his precious time, which he has taken for educating us, because practical is important, but yes, a little bit knowledge about it, it goes hand in hand. So thank you for all the details and making us aware of so many things, especially the energy flow was the best takeaway for me today. And thank you everybody from bottom of my heart that you came and attended the session. And you know the next step, if you need Deepak's services, he's there for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nidhi. So, and thank you one and all. Have a great weekend ahead of you and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.